Welcome to the Published and Paid podcast, where we share book, business, leadership, and life lessons in 20 minutes or less to help you build a thought leadership brand and business. My name is Jasmine Womack. I'm a former middle school language arts teacher turned seven-figure entrepreneur, and I am glad that you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to Published and Paid, the podcast. And today's episode is all about how to sell when you are uncomfortable with sales. I really wanted to dive deep into this topic today because I understand that in the thought leadership industry, or when you are building your thought leadership brand, you have to expand yourself in ways in which you may not have expected. And I know that a lot of the clients that I have worked with, just over the past several years of doing this work are superstars professionally, whether it's in their career or in their businesses. But when it comes to marketing, then at times there's some apprehension. For example, when I decided to write my first book, I was already a strong writer. I was a leader in my school. I was a language arts teacher. I was department chair, department co-chair. I had just started collaborating with others and attending workshops and other things on the county level. I spent years of speaking. I had spent years of speaking and contributing on panels, editing, providing editing services. Like, I was good at what I was good at, but I also was able to do a lot of that, quote unquote, behind the scenes. And so as my first book was in editing, I realized very quickly that I had to promote it if I wanted to be successful. And if I wanted to be successful on a level where I wanted my business to replace and grossly surpass my income from my salary, if I wanted to be successful and have an amazing business, I knew that I had to learn how to market and I had to learn how to sell. But my challenge was that I was a severe introvert. And the mere thought of me getting on camera, thinking about things to talk about, it was challenging. The mere thought of me striking up conversations with people that I didn't know terrified me. Listen, it literally made me shake in my boots. Just the thought of it. It was a serious roadblock. And I knew that if I didn't get past this roadblock, I knew that if I didn't learn how to solve this issue, that was going to be it. That was going to be it. At the time, I had a coach who, in an effort to help me grow in this area, challenged me to just simply strike up conversations with random people. Meaning that whenever I was out, take the opportunity to talk to somebody, take the opportunity to start up a conversation. And that's what I started doing. So I remember that night after a coaching session, I think it wasn't a coaching session, but it may have been some event that I attended that my coach was putting on. I went to Chipotle and I was in the line at Chipotle and I just struck up a conversation with the lady who was waiting in line along with me. I started small talking, which was another issue for me because I had prided myself for years on, well, I don't do small talk, this, that, and the third. And I've met other people who do that as well. They almost like turn their noses up at small talk as if they're too good to engage in small, minimal conversation with people. But what I've learned along this journey is that small talk leads to amazing relationships. And truth be told, small talk leads to the big dollars. So if you want amazing success in your business, you're going to have to get out of your shell. You're going to have to get out of the things that you want or you like to do. You're going to have to stretch yourself and stretch your muscle, and you're going to have to stretch your conversation muscle. And so I began to stretch this muscle by engaging in small talk with people who I didn't know whenever I was in line, whether I was getting some food, whether I was in line at the grocery store. I would just start up conversation. normally by a compliment. I would find something to compliment someone on and then just continue the conversation from there. I also focused on selling where I was. So, for instance, I worked at a school. So, the school had plenty of people in it, from the custodians to the janitors, the custodians and janitors, the cleaning staff to the lunch ladies to the actual teachers, And so I focused on having conversations with people who were directly in my environment and sharing my book with them and asking them to purchase either out of support or for someone who they may know who may have needed it. One of the other shifts that I made was that I had to stop automatically thinking that people would say no or that people would look at me weird for selling my book or for talking to them. For some reason, I think that many people have a default to the negative, where you automatically think about the negative things that could potentially happen instead of thinking about or considering the positive things or the positive outcomes that may occur. And when I open myself up to accepting and embracing that there are people who will support me if I ask them to support me, and there are people who will be inspired just by having the level of courage, as opposed to thinking that someone's going to think about me weird, that began to shift the game for me. So the truth of the matter is that when you do not have a background in sales or you are uncomfortable with sales, it is a muscle that can be built. And one of the things that I had to do over time was to build my sales muscle. I had to become comfortable with sales. But you're not going to become comfortable with sales or the sales process if you never put yourself in position to make sales and if you never study sales. Now, you may have a background in sales, but many experts or many thought leaders or many people in my audience have a professional background similar to me and do not have traditional sales experience. Like, I was a middle school teacher for 12 years. I had no sales experience at all, no traditional sales experience. But I never stopped to think about the other skills that I had that also were sales skills. I just didn't look at it as sales skills because it didn't involve money. So anytime I had to think about a crafty way to convince someone, that's me building my sales skill, building my persuasion skill. Anytime I had to step in front of my class and get them interested in something that they were not naturally interested in, that was me building a sales muscle. Even though I wasn't selling a product to them in exchange for income, I had to sell the information to them in a way that would interest them and get them to participate. I had to relate it to them and I had to allow them to see themselves inside of what I was teaching. It's the same thing with sales, with traditional sales. So I want you to think about the ways in which you use sales skills already, even though you may not necessarily be selling anything for money. Because the truth of the matter is that when you want to grow to the point where you're selling $20,000, $50,000, or $100,000 consulting or training packages, you're not going to get there if you don't learn and embrace how to sell a $20 product confidently. So you must embrace sales because writing the book is not enough. And this is one of the reasons why in our program, Published and Paid Academy, this is one reason why we extended the program from 6 to 12 months, because we didn't want to only help our authors focus on writing the book. Because how many authors do you know that have just written a book, right? And they're not doing anything with it. That's because they don't know how to do anything with it. So writing your book is one component. However, marketing your book, packaging your book, learning how to communicate about your book, selling your book, becoming visible, and creating beyond the book offers, that's a different skill set. And those are skill sets that are required when you want to have success in your thought leadership brand. And that's not a skill set that you can learn or build or become comfortable with in 6 months. It takes longer. And so that's why we extended the Published and Paid Academy to 12 months so that we can support our clients in that way, so that we can support our clients beyond the writing process, so that we can support them with the marketing, with the launching, and with the sales. Not just the sale of the book, but the sale of their beyond the book packages as well. Okay? And so when it comes to you writing your book, I want you to begin to make this mindset shift. It's not just about writing the book. You're going to have to build your sales skills as well. Now, does this mean that you should stop what you're doing until you become comfortable? No. The growth is in the doing. The learning is in the doing. Traditional education teaches us that learning is reading and then regurgitating those facts. But entrepreneurship requires us to not just read and study, but then to actually go implement and execute what we've studied, then come back to the drawing board, look at what's working, look at what's not working, and then make some adjustments and then do it again. And that is learning in the entrepreneurial world. Okay. So you have to begin to make this mindset shift. And you also need to understand that sales is a muscle, it's a skill set that can be learned. So the first thing you need to do is to lean into your fear. It's not anything to back away from, because if you back away from it, then you'll have a book that's literally just collecting dust in the corner or on the shelf because you're not going to sell it. I want you to also practice selling your book daily, in person and online. Okay. You're going to have to put an emphasis on sales as well. This means that you may pick up some books about sales and then begin to implement what you learn. So, one of a really good book on sales that I've read recently was Dan Kennedy's No BS Sales Success in the New Economy. It's really, really good because it talks about the psychology behind selling. Also, Brian Tracy has some really great books about sales as well. And what I'll do is that I'll make sure that the show notes have the link to these books so that you can check them out. They're books that I recommend to all of our clients in our Impact University programs. Okay. When you want to elevate your sales skills, you also need to embrace and learn the art of small talk. A lot of people limit their success because they believe that every conversation is supposed to be some deep, profound conversations, but you don't get to the deep, profound conversations without being able to open up a conversation. And that requires small talk. Small talk is what breaks the ice. It's what allows people to connect and find common ground, so to speak. You're limiting by yourself by saying, "Oh, I don't engage in small talk. I don't do that." And you just shut down anybody who tries to engage in it with you. No, that's a limiting belief that you have, and it's a limiting behavior as well. The last thing you need to do if you want to become comfortable with sales is that you have to learn how to confidently communicate about your product and service. One of my good friends, and she's also the host of our annual event, Published and Paid Live, LB, she always states this quote that says, "Clarity saves, confusion costs." When you're clear about what you do, when you're clear about what you offer, when you're clear about what you sell and how you're selling it, and you can confidently communicate that in a way in which other people can easily understand and you're not rambling on, not only does it build your self-esteem, but it also will convert more on the back end. So you're going to have to build your communication skills. You're going to have to learn how to easily and effortlessly talk about who you are, what you do, what you sell, who you serve, how you serve them, and how you help people get results. Okay? If you're looking for more information on how you can grow your thought leadership brand, definitely grab a copy of my book, Published and Paid. Write, self-publish, and launch your nonfiction book in 90 days or less. You can grab a copy of my book, either the paperback or the ebook, at www.publishedandpaidbook.com. You can also look in the show notes for the links to the sales books that I recommended in this podcast. Those are affiliate links. So if you use those links, then I'll get a small credit from that. Okay. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. If you know someone who needs this, share it with a friend. And until next time, peace, love, and impact.